Just briefly, it is now looks like a regular occurrence in the conclusion of Cabinet on Wednesdays that I take this opportunity with the media to just make some brief summaries of highlights from the Cabinet meetings. This is the third week of the new administration. The first week was taken up by budgetary issues. The second week was an opportunity for ministers to meet and orientate themselves to their ministries and other areas of responsibilities. Meanwhile, the work of Cabinet continues through its regular meetings that we have on Wednesday, or when necessary, to call special meetings. This is our third week, and just to give some highlights of today's meeting, we were discussing a particular proposal from the Ministry of Commerce and Labour, Industry and Labour, on grants given to private sector organizations. It is very important for our new government that there is this facility by which the government budget can be used to support private sector organizations and initiatives. It is a way of work that we would like to see, not only through the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Labour, but all other ministries that have contact points with the private sector or our communities. This is a good way in which the government budget can be utilized in such a way to raise the performance of various other sectors other than the public sector. So we were very pleased to not only consider the paper from the ministry, but also to have the broader discussion around how the budget can support the private and non-government sectors. There were two major projects put through from the tenders board. This is for the Malolo-Lile area for the water supplies. This is a particular area that is not only being settled for residents but also for developments. And through the development process, it is necessitating the provision of good water supplies, and two contracts have now been proposed from the tenders board and approved by Cabinet today. We had two significant discussions on the Cabinet table, and these had to do with market developments, local produce markets. The Cabinet have been informed from various sources on the existing markets, how they are performing, and also for new proposed markets, especially here in the Apia urban area. The public will note that the market in Savalalo has been disestablished, and there was proposals for a new market development in Songi. Meanwhile, there's an interim provision made for the people who were in the Savalalo market. However, Cabinet is taking this opportunity to review the market situation, the history of our markets, but more especially which entities within government are responsible for markets, because at the moment we have two active government agencies overseeing and managing our markets, and that's the Accident Compensation and the Samoa Land Corporation. So the new administration would like to have fuller understanding of where the proposals are, but more to the point, that there is a clear policy definition of where we want markets, where we need markets, and what level of investment the government should be making in this particular sector. We had a significant discussion on Samoa Airways. I think this is the second week that Cabinet has received information not only from the Samoa Airways company, but also, of course, from the various government agencies who are active in this undertaking. Our Samoa Airways airplane is currently in Brisbane, Australia. It is undertaking technical checks. This is a requirement, of course, for validation of registration and also to ascertain the worthiness of the aircraft. We're not quite sure at this point how soon those tests and processes will take place. Meanwhile, our Cabinet is taking the opportunity to once again reach a clearer understanding of the progress of the Samoa Airways project from its inception to where it is now, and also what future implications there are for government, especially government liabilities or responsibilities in terms of the funding arrangements that have been made. No firm decisions have been made. Essentially, the process that was started by the former government is in play, although there are still issues that have to be resolved. And as those issues are resolved or other matters come to light, then we will determine where we are exactly with Samoa Airways, but the airplane is not here. It's in Brisbane, Australia. I think another notable thing is that the medical scheme that's funded by our own government and also the assistance from New Zealand, we have noted that that scheme is once again in play. There was a time through the proclamations for COVID and the bans on travel that we had stopped these schemes of taking our patients to New Zealand. They have now restarted, and we are very happy that this has restarted to assist with the health needs of our people. I do want to note, though, that we have continuing problems with the health ministry. At the moment, our CT scan doesn't work. We're currently informed that we're looking for parts and also looking for a new CT scan. But I'm just wanting to make mention of this in light of people being sent to New Zealand for treatment. When we have the facility to help doctors here make diagnosis, like the CT scan, it may determine that they can be treated here. But the current situation is such that we will have to send our patients to have those scans done in New Zealand, even before considering what treatment they may need. So it's very important, and we make this point to the Ministry of Health, as I know we have done in the past as well, that the ministry really does need to ensure the ready supply and the maintenance of machinery and equipment to help our medical personnel undertake their work. But we're very pleased that this scheme has restarted for the sake of our people. No doubt you will have all seen that unfortunate incident with our Nafanua patrol boat. We have received reports today on the condition of the ship. Assistance has been requested for its removal from where it is now, and possible options of what needs to be done to repair the Nafanua. Nafanua, of course, plays a very vital role for the security of our sea boundaries, the safety service that they provide, and also playing our part with our region in other activities to keep our maritime boundaries well policed. Of course, we all know and are very thankful that this is the second Nafanua gifted from the Australian government, and I just want to again acknowledge the Australian government for this very important assistance that they provide to Samoa. Lastly, I think of note and very important is the step undertaken by our Ministry of Health to begin to roll out a door-to-door vaccination program for the COVID-19. When we started the vaccinations program, this program was rolled out in different areas of the country. But now the ministry has determined, and with full support from Cabinet, that our response to COVID-19 and ensuring the highest possible rate of vaccination and protection for our country, and the door-to-door practice is one that we know very well from our experience with the measles and how impactful that was in our response to the measles epidemic. And I want to take this opportunity to encourage our people to take up this opportunity that has been rolled out and have made it easier for our population to receive and access COVID injections, that we do take up this new program that has been introduced. So thank you. Those are a few highlights from today's Cabinet meeting, and I wish you well.
Prime Minister, just with respect with the current budget that the Cabinet is utilising, does this allow Cabinet to also consider grants for private sector as being discussed today by Cabinet? And also, can you explain if this provision under 100 and Constitution, will this be used throughout until the next meeting in September for Parliament, or is there a possibility it will transition into using the quarter of the previous budget?
This provision is essentially just for 3 months. So our intention is that in September we will be able to table a full annual budget, which will accommodate the kind of grant that you spoke of, because that has been a normal provision in previous budgets. The particular item that I referred through MSIL for private sector organizations, but there are also different programs under different ministries. And part of the discussion today was, giving due recognition to how important it is that the government budget works in such a way where we can also, develop and assist other sectors, private, community, non-government, and so forth.
Just while the new cabinet is reviewing the budget and trying to put together the budget for the next financial year, will we be expecting the 1 million as promised for per constituency for that?
I think so. As a government, we've put that on our manifesto, and we would like to see that happen. I think the big question is, how do we do it?
Well, we're still on the budget.
subject. There was a letter from the former minister of the previous government, and he predicts that there will be some budget cuts from the government in order for this government to meet the promises that was made to the constituencies of 1 million tana for each constituency.
Yeah, can I just make one point first? It's a protocol issue. You know, usually when governments and oppositions have a discussion, well, with due respect, Silly is not an elected member, right? So I don't know in what capacity he's making that comment. I'm not, I'm not sure, and I would invite you to go and have a talk with the Minister of Finance. But the point is, there are many ways the government spends money in communities, right? So, it's either we reorganize how government spends money and put it in the package that we are seeing is something that we want to develop. But, there are different ways of doing it. I don't see that we will be cutting. I think there was a mention of education. We will definitely not be cutting anything from education or health. If anything, we'll probably be putting more money there.
Prime Minister, please, there were claims made by Tula Ipa that one of the CEO for women has been sacked, and also there are allegations that the new government is threatening to dismiss these top officials. Can you please respond if there's any truth in that?
The particular issue with the CEO for the Ministry of Women, her contract has actually finished. And the process is normally that 3 months before the completion of a contract, PSC advertises. Well, that didn't happen. We were told that the CEO had a variation to her contract, but then we also found out that that variation was not done and it was not signed. So in terms of policy and practice of what has happened in the past, when your contract finishes, you finish until you have unless you have a signed variation. And there isn't a regular practice. Sometimes they do a variation, sometimes they say, you're just finished, we will re-advertise. If you want to apply, you're open. And that's the normal process. So I'd just like to make the point that this is a normal process. No one's been sacked. It's an end of a contract. No variation was signed. So, they will re-advertise, or advertise rather. And the CEO is quite, she can apply if she wishes to.